If you're trying to lose weight and you want to do it in a way that actually fits your life without spending hours in the gym or giving up absolutely everything that you love every day, or following some super rigid bodybuilder plan that falls apart the second you get busy, that is exactly what I'm going to walk you through here. I'm going to show you something first though, because I don't want you sitting here wondering if this actually works or if this is just another video where someone talks a lot but doesn't actually show you anything real or anything you can actually use. These are real clients of mine. They are not like influencer people. These are not people with unlimited amounts of time. These are not people whose entire lives revolve around the gym. These are real women with real jobs, real schedules, and real actual lives. So let me start with this gem here. She is a full-time dental hygienist. I also used to be a dental hygienist, but what that means is she's sitting most of the day, like super long appointments in that field, repetitive work. She had a long commute on top of that. So, not exactly a lifestyle that makes any of this easy. And she came to me a few months before her wedding, so she had that deadline, but not a ton of time to like mess around. And what happened was actually kind of funny. She was going through her normal dress fittings and everything was fine until her final fitting. Like the tailor basically told her, whatever you're doing, no more. Like we have to stop here because she had lost so many inches, especially around her waist, that if she kept going, her dress wasn't going to fit on her wedding day. So we actually had to slow her down, not because anything was wrong or she wasn't trying hard enough, but because it clicked and it was rocking. It was working too well, too fast. So we had to make sure that dress fit, and she absolutely crushed it. This next one, just love her. She was a full-time recruiter, works from home, so also pretty sedentary, sitting a lot of the day, mentally draining role, also juggling like her own schedule. She had already lost some weight before, so she wasn't starting from zero. She was at a point where a lot of people actually plateau or get stuck or unhappy with how their body looks. And she also had a bigger goal, which was to compete. So we started working together, and this right here was her progress in just 30 days. Like 30 days. And we were feeding her a lot of food, like more than she thought she would be able to eat. She was training between the gym and at home, so kind of a hybrid thing there. Nothing extreme, but very intentional. And that 1 month of progress, look at that. Her body just responded immediately. And then this next one, this is where we went back and forth the most. Okay, so she is a program manager for a finance company, long days, high stress, always on, and she was constantly getting frustrated with me because I kept telling her to eat more. Like she was genuinely getting annoyed and didn't want to eat more. She thought the answer was eating less, doing more, being stricter, and I kept pushing her to do the opposite. More food, better structure, stop under eating. And this was her progress in 8 weeks. So yeah, she wasn't thrilled with me in the moment, but the results speak for themselves, right? And I actually want you to hear me out on this part because this is where people usually try to disqualify themselves. Like these are not special cases, all right? I think they're all special in their own way, but they're really not special cases. They didn't suddenly have more time and they didn't suddenly become more disciplined. Their lives didn't like get easier. They just followed a system that actually worked in their real life instead of working against it. Like the more you swim upstream, the less successful you're going to be. You need to put things in the flow of how your life actually works. And yeah, there's also a discipline element, but I think there's an over focus on that and not enough focus on like what you're actually trying to build and how it works. So if you're watching this and you're thinking like, yeah, but my situation is different, that's why I showed you them first, because the common factor here wasn't their job, it wasn't their schedule, it wasn't even where they started, it's the system that they followed. So now that you've seen what's possible, let me say something that might not be exactly what you expect, because most people watching something like this are already assuming they know the problem. They probably think, I just need to be more consistent, or I just have to be more disciplined, or maybe I know what to do and I just don't do it. And I get why you think that because that's what you've been told, right? But I'm going to say this like super, super clearly. You probably don't have a discipline problem. And you also don't have a motivation problem. And honestly, you probably don't even have a knowledge problem. You have a life mismatch problem. That's what it is. And what that means is the way you've been trying to do this only works when you're life is perfect, when you have the time, when you have the energy, when everything is planned, when nothing goes wrong. And that version of your life is not your actual life. I mean, can we agree? Your real life looks more like you're tired, you're busy, your schedule changes, something unexpected comes up. You didn't plan your meals perfectly. You miss a workout and then suddenly everything just starts to fall apart. And it's not because like all of a sudden you don't care, and it doesn't mean you're lazy as a person, but because what you were trying to follow really didn't have any room for your real life. So what happens, right? You start off super strong and you're motivated and you're locked in, and for a few days, maybe even a couple of weeks, you can do that. And then life happens, right? And then you fall off, and then you tell yourself, okay, I will just start back over on Monday, or it's next week, or 3 Mondays from now, or 2 months. And then you repeat the cycle over and over and over again for years. And that's the part that people don't really think about enough. It's not just the weight anymore. It's what that cycle does to you mentally. You start to feel like you can't trust yourself. Like no matter what you try, you're just probably going to fall off again. So now it's not even about what works. It's about, can I actually stick to anything? And the worst part is, most of the advice that's floating around out there just makes all of this worse. It's all be more disciplined, or try harder, stay consistent. And like, yeah, that definitely sounds good, but it doesn't solve the actual problem, because you've already tried that. You've already tried harder. You've already tried to stay consistent and all of those things. The problem isn't that you don't try. The problem is that what you're trying was never really built to last in your life. So instead of asking yourself, how do I follow this plan perfectly? The better question is, what happens when I don't? Because that piece right there is where people either keep making progress, or they lose all the progress that they've made, and they kind of do that yo-yo thing. So let me give you something that you can actually use right now, because this one shift alone changes everything. And most people think that when they fall off, they need to start over, like new plan, new Monday, new motivation, but that's exactly why you're getting stuck. So here's the rule that I give to all of my clients. We don't start over ever. Instead, we use what I call a 24-hour reset, meaning no matter how off track you got, no matter how off the rails you went, your only job is to get back to structure within 24 hours. Not perfect, just back to normalcy. So a normal meal, a normal workout, a normal day, because the longer you stay off, the harder it is to come back. And most people don't fail their journey because they messed up once. They fail because they stayed off track just for way too long. So that one little shift alone is the difference between people staying stuck for months or years and people who actually continuously move forward and make progress. And this is exactly what I started noticing after coaching clients for years. It wasn't that people didn't know what to do. And it also wasn't that they weren't trying. It was that they didn't have a system for real life. So I stopped asking, how do we make this more perfect? And I started asking, how do we actually make this work no matter what your life looks like? And that's where things really started to change. So once I realized that the real issue wasn't discipline, it wasn't motivation, it wasn't even knowledge, I had to change how I approached everything as a coach, because the goal stopped being, how do we get the fastest result? And it started to become, how do we build something that actually holds? And that's what became what I call the Durazo protocol. And I want to be clear, this is not some extreme all or nothing type of plan. It's not built for perfect conditions. It is built around your actual life. So instead of trying to force your life to fit a plan, we build a plan that fits your life. And that sounds simple, but almost nobody is actually doing that. Everything inside of this comes down to 3 things. Not 10, not 20, 3 things. Everything inside this, just 3. So if you actually understand these 3 things, you'll start to see why most people stay stuck. And the first thing is, you need a structure that you can repeat. And it's not always the best plan on paper, and it's not the one that works when you're fully locked in. This is the one that you can actually follow on a normal day, on a busy day, on a tired day, on a crap show day, because most people build their plan around their best days, and then they feel like they're failing on their real days. So instead, we build structure around your real life, your schedule, your preferences, your environment, so you don't need perfect conditions to stay consistent. And I want to be super clear on this because people hear this has to fit your life and they think that means everything is just flexible all the time. And that is not how this works. These are phases. There are times when we have to dial things up, when it's more structured, more precise, more locked in. Like if you have a specific goal, a deadline, something you're pushing for, we can absolutely go there. We can get everything very dialed. But, and this is the part most people miss, you still need a floor, a baseline that you can maintain no matter what. Because if your on mode is like completely disconnected from your normal life, the second you come off of it, everything collapses and you rebound. So what we do instead is we build your baseline first. This is the version of this that you can sustain. Then we push. We're building on top of something stable when we start to push, not something super fragile. So you're not going all in, fall off, start over. You're going baseline, push, stabilize, repeat. And that's how you actually keep the progress. And then the second thing is you need objective feedback. Not guessing, not like, I feel like I'm doing good, not relying on like how motivated you feel, but actual data. Body weight trends, food intake, training consistency, movement, because if you don't know what's actually happening, you can't adjust anything. And this is where a lot of people start to get frustrated because they're like working out super hard and they're just guessing the whole time. And the third pillar is, this is actually the one that changes everything. You need the system for when things go off track, because they will. And this is where people either keep moving forward or they lose all the progress that they've made. And most people don't have a plan for travel, for stress, for busy weeks, low motivation, life happening. So one off day turns into a week, and then it turns into a month, then it turns into I'll start over again. But when you actually have a system for that moment, you don't disappear. You adjust, you recover, and you keep going. And this is exactly why you see people get results and then lose those results, because they learned how to follow a plan, but they never learned how to operate when life wasn't perfect. So they can be on for a while, but then they can't actually live in it. And that's the difference, because when you put all of these three things together, a repeatable structure, the real feedback, and a system for getting back on track, you don't just get short-term progress, you build something that you can actually hold on to. And if you're wondering like, okay, but what does that actually look like? This is what I mean when I say I've documented my entire fat loss protocol. At a high level, this is how everything is structured. Okay, so first we establish your baseline, your training, your nutrition, your routine, the version of this that you could actually sustain. This is not perfect, it's not extreme, it's just something that works in your real life. And then we layer in precision where it actually matters. Not everywhere, we're not obsessing about every little detail, just things that move the needle. So you're not doing more, you're doing what works. And then we use real feedback to adjust. So not guessing, not starting over. We look at what's happening and make small changes in real time. And the most important part, we build in recovery systems. So when life happens, and it will, you don't fall off, you adjust, you keep moving. So instead of eat clean and work out, or like just be more consistent, you actually know what to do, when to do it, how to adjust, and how to recover when things aren't perfect. And that's why I call it a protocol, because this isn't random. It's something that's been built, tested, refined over and over again. Now, could you take that and try to apply it on your own? Yeah, you could, but this is still where a lot of people get stuck, because understanding it and applying it to your actual life are two very different things. So now that you understand how this actually works, let's talk about what this looks like over the next 3 to 6 months. Because one of the biggest mistakes that people make is expecting everything to happen like all at once. And then when it doesn't, they assume it's not working. And that's not how this goes. This is a process, but it's a very predictable process. So in the beginning, we're not chasing extreme results right away. We're building your foundation. This is where we dial in your structure, get your nutrition set up properly, establish your training rhythm, start collecting real data. And for a lot of people, this alone already starts creating change. But instead of guessing, you finally have direction. And this is also where we build that baseline we talked about. So you're not relying on motivation, you're operating off of structure. And this part matters because most people try to skip this. They want to jump straight into how fast can I lose weight? But if there's no foundation, you won't keep anything you lose. So we slow it down just enough to make sure everything actually sticks. And then once that foundation is in place, this is where we start to move faster. This is where we can push. This is where fat loss becomes more noticeable. Your body starts changing more rapidly. Your strength improves. Your consistency locks in. And this is where a lot of people start to feel like, okay, like this is actually working, because now it's not just the effort, it's the results. And this is where that earlier point I made matters, because when we dial things up, you're not forcing it. You're building on top of something stable. So instead of burning out, you are progressing. And then this is the part that almost nobody else does, but it's the reason why people keep the results. We stabilize. We don't just keep pushing forever. We bring things back to a level that you can actually maintain, so your body adjusts and your habits lock in. And your new baseline becomes your new normal. This is where it starts to stop feeling like a program and just becomes like how you live. So by the end of 3 to 6 months, it's not just that you've lost weight, it's that you know exactly what to do, you know how to adjust when things change, you don't fall off the second your life gets busy. And that's the difference, because anyone can lose weight temporarily, but very few people actually build something that lasts. And once you experience that, you stop thinking in terms of how do I lose weight? And you start thinking in terms of this is just how I operate now. So if you've made it this far, you probably already know that if this is something that you need, because you can usually feel it, like either it's clicking for you or it's not. And if it is, it's probably because you're recognizing yourself in this, the starting strong, falling off, starting over, trying to figure it out on your own, and being tired of repeating that cycle. So here's what it actually looks like if you work with me. This isn't a generic program. This is coaching, meaning everything is built around you. And just so we're clear, this is not for someone who's looking for a quick fix. This is not for someone who wants the perfect plan handed to them, but isn't actually willing to follow through. And it's definitely not for someone who just wants to try something new. This is for someone who is ready to actually solve the problem and stop repeating the same cycle. We build your training based on your schedule, your experience level, your environment, what you actually have access to, gym, home, mix, it doesn't really matter. We structure your nutrition in a way that works with your life, doesn't eliminate everything you enjoy, but still gets you real results. You check in weekly. It's not just a did you do it or not? We're actually looking at what's happening, what's working, what needs to change, and we're adjusting in real time. So you're not guessing, you're not staying stuck, and you're not spinning your wheels. And that is the biggest difference, is that you don't fall off, because when things go off track, you already know what to do. So instead of disappearing for a week or a month, you adjust and you keep going. And this isn't your life revolving around fitness. This is built to work in about 3 to 4 hours per week of training. And that's it, because again, this has to fit your life. Now, if you've tried to solve this problem before, you already know what it costs. It's not just money, but it's time, it's energy, it's starting over and over and over again, jumping from program to program, trying to figure it out yourself, doing things that don't stick, and all of that adds up fast. So instead of continuing to do that, this is a 3 to 6 month coaching commitment, because that's what it actually takes to build something that lasts. It's not 2 weeks, it's not a quick fix. This is an actual process. And If you're thinking, I've tried everything already, this is exactly why this works, because this isn't another plan to follow blindly. And if you're thinking, I don't have time, that's been the case the entire time. That's why this is built the way it is. And if you're thinking, I always fall off, that's the entire problem this solves. So if you're ready to stop repeating the same cycle and actually build something that works for you, you can apply below and we'll see if it's a good fit. You don't need to try harder. You probably don't need more discipline. You need a system that actually works in your life.